Yes, I'm going to be on video. On mute again. Always on mute. Always on mute. What's going on, BroFit?
Oh my God. I'm enjoying. Look at this delicious. Are you able to see it? All that beauty and deliciousness inside of that? Look at that mix right there.
Loves it. Where's this from?
It's a place called Delight. It's like a little healthy on-the-go place. And so I've got, my wife got this for me. It's got bacon. It's got eggs. It's got cheese. It's got some sort of like mayonnaise or something in there. It's got some bacon. It's got some avocado. It's got some pesto, but it's kind of like just like a little breakfast sandwich here right now.
Oh, that's a ton of flavor. That's a ton of flavor right there.
Just tons and tons of flavor, very high in protein. It's got your carbs that it's going to give you energy, long-lasting energy throughout the day, and it's got some healthy fats in there. So I'm happy. My wife did a good job, and I just got done with a client who's actually, I don't know if you're still there or not. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. No, sorry. I'm trying to go all around with a few things here. I'm definitely here.
You keep doing you. I just want to make sure you can hear me. I actually got done with a client who lives in your town. He's from New York. He lives in New York, and he's the good family friend business. Used to do business with my father, and he's in town. So we just got done with a workout, and I was like, oh, I know somebody in New York. And I showed him like 2 videos of you while you were just kind of walking around doing your steps and saying hi to everybody. He goes, oh, yeah, that's like right around the corner. That's like Manhattan Bridge and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yep, I know there. So, okay. So small world, but I may send you somebody to have a talk and maybe get a new client. We'll see.
Awesome. Would love to. Yeah, you know what? New York is definitely, when you're here for a bit, it does feel smaller. It can be the loneliest place in the world. It can also be one of the most friendliest places. So it just depends on kind of how you approach it all, which is great.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. We got PR in the chat as well. So hello, PR. Thanks for checking it out. We love you being here. So let's give a little bit of a rundown. So we got HealthDads right now. We know that we basically stream the same kind of things, Daily Dads in the morning. We got some push-ups happening in the morning. I heard you say, damn it, was this something that was planned? What's going on right now? But we got HealthDads happening right now, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 days a week. We got BroFit and myself talking training and nutrition for about 40 minutes. We've gone longer most days. but we are making sure that we are getting in what we need to be talking all things just health and confidence for really dads, but parents, anyone in general. But
Yes.
3 things I think we've been touched on just because I like structure in kind of how we do things. But one kind of state of any clients, questions that we're seeing, wins that we have. And you know what I'd love? Like even like PR, this is not like you can totally do this, but I would love people to kind of like bounce up. And if you guys have questions and do a little pseudo counseling, like we'd love to do that. I think that'd be so fun to kind of talk through a few things. And so, you know, state of all things that are happening within our world and clients. Also, BroFits moves the day. And then, you know, I think we did some kind of healthy discussion last time on some hot dogs. Well, I guess we did the, I guess we did fats last time, or the time before that too. So some really good stuff.
Yeah. I said, damn it, because I promised PR that every time that I saw him in the chat, whatever chat I saw him in, that I would do 10 push-ups and 10 sit-ups. And every single time that I did see him, I promised him that. So whether it was my morning coffee workouts so that he'd stop in and say hello, no matter where I was at, I would stop. I would do my 10 push-ups and 10 sit-ups. And that was something that he's, I challenged him one day, right? I was like, get out of the car. And he's like driving or whatnot. I was like, get out of the car and do it. Like, just do it. Like, just literally pull your vehicle over the side of the road and fucking do push-ups. And he's like, okay. And he did it. And he took a video, right? And he's like, bro, like, I'm literally just standing outside here. I'm going to do this. Like, bro, I don't know what the hell is wrong with you, man. And he starts doing them, right? And bang, he knocks out like 40 of them. And here was my favorite part about it, right? It wasn't the fact that he did it. It wasn't the fact that he created this like push-up train that all these other members then started following suit. My favorite part about it wasn't the 40 push-ups. It was the moment he got back into the car and he went from just a blank face and he just started smiling. He was happy. He was proud of himself. He knew as silly and as uncomfortable as it was to pull the vehicle over and do 40 push-ups, it immediately had a positive impact on his life. And that, man, just that positive energy was contagious and everybody saw it and they're like, shit, I want that. And they started doing it. So from that moment, I've told him, I said, listen, there's other ways of holding each other accountable, and accountability isn't fun. That's why I said, damn it. Like, I don't want to, I just worked out. I've done 6,000 steps today. I've already worked out. I just worked out with a client. I'm tired. But you know what? Seeing him makes me hold myself accountable, and it makes me do the things I don't necessarily want to do when I don't want to do them. And so I appreciate that from him because it makes me better. And if he's doing it too, which I hope he's doing his 10 and 10, he's getting better. And so anyways, that's what that was all about.
That's so cool. I love that. And I think the accountability there is huge. And I think it's so cute. I think it's so cute that you guys did that together. That was definitely, you know, I think if more people, it's just stirring the pot a little bit, you know, whenever you kind of need a little bit of a boost, I think it definitely helps a ton. You know, I think when we can break ourselves out of our usual, it helps that much more. And I think the easiest thing to do is kind of move your body that way. Because this is kind of like, it's all about clients, all that kind of stuff, people that aren't moving so much. What you were saying before, it had me thinking for a second. There's something that I wish a lot of people could feel. And, you know, I think that we all want to feel bulletproof. We all want to feel like we can do anything. We want to feel strong. We want to feel confident. Like everybody wants that, right? And there's this feeling that people can definitely get. And I think it's something that is almost similar to a runner's high, but it really comes when you are in the gym. Tell me if this resonates with you. But there's a feeling for sure that after you've been, I think, lifting consistently and safely, and you know, for your goals, and you stayed consistent for a good amount of time, I think that there's this like almost like you can just keep pushing through almost anything. It's like what you were just saying. It's like you already got your steps in, you worked out, you're with a client, now you said push-ups. I think there's many people, especially that are starting some kind of journey of kind of strength training or just movement itself. There can be so much soreness that kind of sneaks up on you, and then you don't want to do those kind of movements, or you can't do those movements. But the more that you do them, it's almost like it doesn't matter when or how much. you can almost push past, and you know what your body is capable of. So even if you feel a little bit of soreness, you're like, yeah, but that's not a lot of soreness. I can go right through that. And all of a sudden you're doing more work. And when people are doing more work, that's more time under tension, all these things, that's where those body composition changes like really come. So like you stop holding yourself back. There's less fragility. And I think that people start hitting these like amazing goals from there. So, it's always like, I'd rather somebody just do only push-ups and body squats, uh, every single day for like 3 weeks, then start to pick up dumbbells or a bar or do anything else. It's like, just stay consistent with that. And you know what? When someone tells you like you shouldn't be doing push-ups every single day, I'm like, just do push-ups every single day. And I promise you, at the end of 3 weeks, you're going to feel like whether you want to do 100 push-ups, 10 push-ups, or 300 push-ups, you're going to figure out how you can actually do that. Your body is just able to do, it's almost like that runner's high that you can't explain. Like, it was like, what do you mean it feels good? It's like, you can't explain a runner's high. A runner's high is just like, there are endorphins running through you. You feel good. You can't really put into words, but it feels like the same kind of thing, at least to me. I don't know if that resonates with you, but it definitely resonates with me.
No, definitely. It's, yeah, absolutely. It resonates. It makes sense.
What else? Anything else with clients? Anything new? The client you just had before that came from New York to come see you.
Yeah, he's 72 years old, and he comes from more of like a bodybuilding style background, but he says, teach me things that I'm capable of doing on my own without having a gym. That's what I would like to learn today. And I said, okay, great.
Wait, what did he ask? Say it one more time.
He wanted to have some exercises and things today, specifically not revolved around weights. He wanted things more to, his biggest thing that he talked about was when he went through COVID, on how he staying in a routine and having a routine and feeling like he's not running out of options and things to do. And so when he had COVID, he wasn't able to get to the gym and lift weights and stuff like that. So he just kind of ran out of ideas and stopped getting in a routine. And so he kind of brought that into today's session somehow. And he just said, I just want to do stuff that I wouldn't normally do. And he likes to do bench press. He likes to shoulder press. He likes to do bicep curls and tricep extensions, and the typical, I call it the egotistical bodybuilding type exercises where you're putting on muscle mass. Nothing wrong with it. It just is what it is. Yeah. And so today we went through more like strength through length type of things. Perfect example. He was talking about, he goes, man, I see guys my age not able to walk through town, or not able to take the steps, or they're having to hold on to stuff and do these things. And I said, well, that's a great topic of discussion. I said, we should talk about increasing range of motion and being able to have the hip flexibility and all these other things. So we went through some knee over toe ranges of motion, and we've done these things before to where we just opened up his hip flexors. So for him, just being able to take bigger steps, right? You have to have the strength of your hip flexors to lift your leg, and then B, from there, as you're taking steps forward right here, as I'm walking forward, I'm actually stretching out my hip flexor every time I'm walking, right? And so whether I'm taking steps or not, we want to be able to increase those ranges so that you just feel like you have more space, right? If I could take a small step rather than a big step, if I can take a big step, I can take small steps. It's not the other way around. So we worked on today in terms of increasing range of motion. So for him, as he's getting older, he doesn't do a lot of stretching, so and he does a lot of walking, so his calves and Achilles tendons are really, really tight. He sits down at a desk job, so his hip flexors are really tight and they're not activated. So we started getting into some of these positions where now he's stretching out. I'll switch sides so you can see really this.
That's good. I think we're good.
The hip flexor is getting stretched here, right? My Achilles is getting stretched back here. I'm getting good extension or inflection, in my knee. So I know I don't have any knee issues. For me, I'm protecting the whole body and allowing for me to increase range of motion. Now, he was here. He would have to bring his leg here, and he was getting stuck about here, right? And so his range of motion really wasn't all that good, even though he said, hey, I'm capable of making steps at my age and other guys aren't. But by the time we were done, he was getting in more of this position, right? Or he was able to lengthen out a stride and get a little bit deeper. And so by the time we were done with today's session, he was going, oh my gosh, I feel A, like I'm walking on clouds, kind of. But B, I feel like I just did a very heavy, heavy, heavy leg day and we didn't move any weights. What's up with that? I said, well, we're doing the same concept. We're still tearing down lean tissue. We're now getting into some of those tendons and ligaments, and we're lengthening it up. We're asking your body to respond in these longer positions rather than these short ranges. And all I know is that anybody who's successful in these really long ranges can be successful in these short ranges. However, people who are successful in these short ranges cannot necessarily be successful in these long ranges. We've all seen that guy who does a body. I always say bodybuilders. I'm not against bodybuilders, but the guys who just egotistical lifter dudes, the shoulders are rotated, they walk around like this and they're just stuck. They're just like there's no functionality. As that person gets older, they're not going to have a really functional life. It's not going to be very, very happy. They're going to be limited. They're not going to have the movement that they necessarily are looking to achieve. And as we get older, I have a tendency to start dialing in on those things. What are the things that are going to make me feel better, not look better? And not that looking better is not a goal, but our goals change as we're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. My goals as a 40-year-old are so different than when I was 20. 20 was all egotistical and female driven and performance in college. Now I just want to feel good so I can be a good husband, so I can be a good father, so that I can go play with my kids, right? Two totally drastic things.
Can I play devil's advocate for a second?
Absolutely.
So Brofit, I mean, I think you've been on some walks. I know you've taken pictures shirtless, all that kind of stuff. Like you are in good shape. It's less of a need to focus there, right? So you're already, I think feeling confident and feeling good. So I think it's easy. Like this is obviously, I'm just asking this. This is not so much of how I feel, but the idea is like, hey, you already look good and you feel good. You know what I hear sometimes is someone's like, well, you don't really understand how I feel because you've never been overweight. First of all, for me, I've been 30 pounds more than I am today. And, very uncomfortable and like not knowing how it was, or, what really happened. But, being able to kind of change that, it showed me that perspective as well. But, do you think that as you age, being 40 in a body that you're at right now, it gives you the freedom to actually then focus on those other things? Because then do you think that there are a lot of dads, parents, people out there that are still trying to balance both? And how do you balance both if you feel like you don't have the body that you want just yet?
Man, you talked a lot right there. Hold on. Yeah. Explain, go through that question one more time, because I just want to make sure I understood that clearly.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say hi to Lenny. Lenny, good to see you.
Hey.
Lenny Bronstein. He is down in Coney Island, and it's nice to see him. Lenny, we haven't talked in so long. I hope the family's doing well. So and Lenny, I think Lenny. What's that?
Sorry, go ahead. You talk.
No. I feel like Lenny would also fall into this camp as well. People who I think have reached a body composition that they're very confident in. And so now when they do have these movements, it's like, you don't have to think about that anymore. You can simply just focus on, your flexibility and, all the movement stuff that you're definitely talking about. And I'm just opening up the conversation with this, but how do we feel like there are people out there that I know that are like, but I'm still working on, like, I still want to try to look even, this, like, I have a goal body composition that I'm kind of looking for. And I do want that range of motion as well. How would you kind of direct someone into, balancing those two things or focusing on one more than the other?
Man, well, again, it's always up to who the clientele is and what the goal is. If I'm dealing with a 20-year-old who's an athlete, it's going to be different than Mr. and Mrs. Jones who's 60 years old, right?
We're talking Mrs. Jones. We're talking Mrs. Jones.
Mrs. Jones, beautiful. So Mrs. Jones is, how old is Mrs. Jones? 60 years old?
Going 60. It was your Mrs. Jones.
Okay, so Mrs. Jones, she wants to drop a little bit of body weight, right? She maybe wants to drop a little bit of body fat. She wants to increase some range of motion. She wants to feel a little bit better about herself. She wants to increase her energy. She likes to do salsa dancing on the weekends with her new boyfriend, because Mr. Jones passed away about 3 years ago, and she's now got a new boyfriend. So she's doing that.
The details are there. This is great.
She's getting into it, right? So, but however, she feels really limited in certain things, and she's not as fluent and as spicy as she used to be when she was in her 20s. So I get that. Mrs. Jones is wanting to feel a little bit sexier at 60 years old. She wants to increase her range of motion, and she doesn't want to hurt her hips. So what do we do with Mrs. Jones, right? We've got to start figuring out, hey, what is she doing currently? I think that's establishing what was she doing. If she's doing nothing, getting her to move is going to be very, very simple. But if she's actually being active, like, hey, I'm already walking a lot and I'm dancing a lot. Well, let's focus on the things that you can achieve rather than things that you can't achieve. Let's focus on the movement patterns that you're capable of doing rather than the things you're not capable of doing. We can take that same example of a stretch, right, where I can get Mrs. Jones to lift her foot up onto a box or a step or whatever it is, and we can work some of these range motions. For Mrs. Jones, this might be a crazy stretch. It just might be, because who knows what Mrs. Jones has done for 60 years, right? Or Mrs. Jones might be like an old dancer of some sort, or gymnast, and she's able to get down into these longer strides, right? And work more on balance and strength in these bottom positions. So whether I'm starting off new or I'm really, really complex, I can, again, increase and make these more difficult, right? So it just depends on where her starting point is and what she's capable of doing. I always focus on what can you do, not what you can't do, right? Push-ups, another great example. You're like, just do push-ups. I kind of agree with that, right? If somebody's not capable of doing a full-on upper body push-up from on their hands and their toes, I don't believe they should be trying to accomplish full push-ups. Why? Because certain things are going to overcompensate. You don't have the right muscle groups engaging, and most likely we're going to do it incorrectly. So how do we scale things, right? Focusing on the things that we can do. So instead of being maybe all the way up in a push-up, I might be down on my knees. So now I'm reducing a ton of the tension, right? Or let's say, hey, I still have a hard time on my knees and I'm doing one of these things, right? We've all seen these people kind of do these like chicken winged half push-ups. They're not really push-ups. They're more doing like this neck thing. Let's work on negatives. The pushing up part is a hard part. So let's control our body through that position. So if going up is really hard and I'm like, no, I don't have the position. Well, how can I get into these positions slowly? Let's go in reverse. So I'm going to lower myself down as slowly as I can and get control. Then I can get back up however I want. It's called a negative.
So Bri, let me ask. So when we're talking about Mrs. Jones, right, we're talking about flexibility, we're talking about being able to get range of motion, but we're also keeping things just like, strength, and the strength aspect right now. Like we're working on range of motion. We're working on strength for also the body composition aspect of things as well, because this is someone who really wants to balance both of those. But yeah, no, I think the idea of making sure that we're scaling appropriately for everyone, I think is going to be so necessary. And I want to make sure that it's like, I think a great answer could involve the idea that, just because, you are working on range of motion and it doesn't feel like it's actually working on body composition, it still is, right? Because strength and range of motion do go together. I think some people kind of miss that. So
tearing down muscle. Whether I take 30, 40, 100 pounds and I physically tear muscle down, or if I'm stretching out, I'm still tearing down lean tissue. That's why yoga is so damn hard for us guys, because we're tight. We've learned how to tighten up and to have our muscles contract. And so to strengthen and lengthen them out is hard. It's actually physically tearing down lean tissue. That's why ladies go in the yoga and they're like, they're just doing their thing. But the weightlifting is a little bit tougher because they haven't had those muscles contract as much in these shorter ranges of motion. They've worked in these longer ranges. So they're like, well, give me lighter weights because I can control in and out. guys go, give me your heavier weights because I can stay in here and I can isolate.
Yeah. I think you know what it is too. The idea there that range of motion will be improved with strength, and that strength for guys, that strength body composition will be improved with length of with range of motion. If anyone's familiar with Lane Norton, I like Lane Norton. He does a lot of myth busting, and he has his own way of kind of talking about it and all that kind of stuff on social media. But definitely appreciate his approach with nutrition research. But in particular, he just put out, I think it was a newsletter and an email, but he was talking about, range of motion and being able to lengthen your muscles. I think he was focusing mainly on a bicep discussion in the moment. But if you want to grow bigger muscles, that range of motion is going to be so much more important. And especially as we age, right? We're talking to dads. We want to make sure that dads are feeling more confident, that if you aren't getting that range of motion while you're also building your muscle, then you might not be doing everything that you definitely can. I mean, first and foremost, find some sort of strength based movement that that you can definitely do, I think, but also just make sure that you don't discount something like the yoga, or, because a lot of guys still come to me and they're like, okay, it's either strength training or yoga. I'm like, well, can you do both?
Yes.
A lot of guys are like, well, I definitely can. I know for me, from my area, because I don't do programming, I know enough to kind of be like, okay, what are you doing? Let's talk about it. But I think a lot of guys, I'm always saying, it's like, well, don't think you can't do both, and don't think you shouldn't do both, but just make sure that the strength training is definitely something that doesn't really slip beneath what we need for muscle maintenance. But yeah, I think great discussion about kind of both of those. I think it's good. We're going to have a shorter show today. I have to go pick up my daughter a little bit. But good state of some clients. I think that's definitely good. If anyone else has any questions at all, I think it's definitely good here. We had MP over here. He let us know that working out the hip, or stretching out the hip flexor, was something that he was doing just before golf, which is great. Also, also got word before that Adam Sandler was filming Happy Gilmore 2 in my hometown, or my hometown. So that's pretty exciting. Over in Hackettstown, New Jersey. And
did you know Rob Schneider is his daughter's in my son's class?
Oh, amazing! Got it. Yeah. I didn't know that they live by you. That's so cool.
Sorry. Anyways, go ahead.
No, it's all good. And Lenny over there is saying he's injured. I'm curious, Lenny, if you are listening still, what was the injury? Because I think that would be an interesting part of discussion in terms of movement. Because I think staying in shape while you are injured is definitely a bit of a challenge if we don't know how to keep moving, for sure. I just had a bunch of those guys too. I had two clients that were clearly overtraining. The discussion was largely on like, just stop doing so much, but the other side of it was making sure that they definitely knew how to approach nutrition with them just moving less, and it was fun. So, but let us know, Lenny, what was that injury? And as we continue to build this out, we have a little bit of a little fun time with some counter arguments. We'll see what we can do here. Anything of interest that you feel like has been coming up at all for discussion?
I think one of the ones I would like to discuss at some point is, and it doesn't need to be right now, but I think supplementation needs to come into a play at some point. I think supplements. Oh. I think there's just discussion about supplements should come into play. I know we've talked a little bit about creatine. We've talked a little bit about oils more for the cooking aspects of things, but I think we can relate that a little bit into 3, 6s, and 9s, like we were talking about with the omegas, and how important that can be, whether it's brain functioning or joint lubrication, or men and their testosterone, and just women and their cycles, and just keeping things natural. Hormonal is what I was trying to get at. Or if it's, what do I take? Why do I take it? Is too much too much? Is more better? Should I even consider taking supplements before focusing on my food intake, right? Like, I think a lot of those questions come into play because a lot of people want that instant result, instant satisfaction, instant play. Give me like the 4 things I need to be taking. Well, what have you been doing consistently in the past? Have you been consistent in the past? How's your food intake? And what really, if what you talk a lot about is getting blood work done and really finding out what it is rather than guessing all the time, is really understanding, hey, how are these foods or how are these supplements playing internally and playing a structure to how my body's surviving and thriving. I think it's a wonderful discussion, and there's so many places that you can go onto it. So there's certain things that we've talked about that we agree upon, and I think there's a few things that we've talked about that we disagree upon. So I think it'd just be a naturally kind of a fun discussion. And I think a lot of people are curious about it more. I feel like people are more curious about like supplementation than they are actually going out and working out. Right? They'd be curious about.
Are always a sexy thing. It's always the thing people love to talk about.
Yeah.
And no. First of all, I think the one thing I want to go back to a comment that I had. I commented on something when we were going back and forth, and I was playing the question game. When it comes to even like fats, like omega, the 3s, the 6s, and the 9s. One thing in particular that's always good to understand is, are you taking too much of something, or are you even at a level that is necessary to start looking at them? One thing in particular that I had sent to you, again, it was in a comment, so some stuff gets lost, but it was checking out your omega-3 index, which is a really interesting thing to do. It's a really easy home test, and it's going to look at basically how much omega-3 versus omega-6s and everything else is in your blood. And when you send in your test, you can basically decide, how in depth you want to go. But overall, you're looking at an omega-3 index of 8% or more. And if it's just below that, then it's something where your omega-3 intake just might be a little bit lower. And if you don't eat fish, if you don't, have any, if you're a vegan, then it's definitely good to kind of think about how you can kind of increase that with either algal oil or anything else. But the discussion I think is great in terms of like, what are those thresholds that we want to get to? Like, I would argue that, omega-3 is not all going to be made the same. And if you're not getting at least 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA together in a day, that you're likely not going to be hitting these, that 8% that's going to be more beneficial for overall, brain health and recovery. And, there's some great stuff around even VO2 max. Some things that's a little bit less, that's a little bit more controversial rather, is looking at omega-3 and also the amount of how it's going to affect things just like your triglycerides and your cholesterol and all that kind of stuff too, and just that heart health in general. But when it comes to the brain, when it comes to sports nutrition, it definitely has a bunch of benefits there. But I would definitely recommend, like, even before that discussion or just going into that discussion, think about going to get it's Omega Quant. That's the test, but you can go get it. It's not very expensive. Send it in. It takes like a week to come back, and then you kind of know where you're at and whether you have to supplement or eat more, do whatever you got to do. And then I think they recommend rechecking in 3 or 4 weeks. But I think it might take a little bit longer to actually increase it. So I don't know if that's might be wrong. But it's an interesting thing to take a look at. So I'd love to. Yeah, let's bring it up. I know I'm going to be short on time because I have to get my daughter. The one thing I wanted to do though is I put up a picture this morning on X, at least. Didn't do it on Instagram yet. But I was in the store. I was actually going to send a picture to you, Brian. I was going to say, hey, go grab these at the store if you see them, because we can do a little taste test. I like doing that kind of stuff. But looking at something like this can of salmon here.
Awesome.
This can of salmon. The reason I grabbed this in particular, I also grabbed it in a pack. I also grabbed something that I love. I always loved canned mackerel because I think it's a great way just to get your omega-3s. And we're talking about it right now. But one thing in particular that I loved about this is that I'm just walking around. Sometimes I just spend time in the store looking at all kinds of products and see what's going on. But this in particular, it was about, it was $6. It was $6 for this whole can. But this whole can has 100 grams of protein in it. So there's 5 servings, 20 grams of protein each. Obviously, the omega-3 is going to be through the roof with this. You're going to, usually with salmon, I think it's going to be somewhere around, I'm going to miss the number right now, but a good like 3-ounce portion is definitely going to give you, I think, close to, 600 milligrams of EPA and DHA. And again, EPA, DHA for the brain, EPA for more overall health. These are the kind of things that are going to make a big difference for you. But I love the fact that like people think that you can't get in the amount of protein you need or the omega-3 you need. Now, obviously not the best quality in life, but it's wild. It works. You can make patties out of this. When I worked in the hospital at my internship, I made salmon patties for one of my internship projects, and we used canned salmon, and they were a hit. So there's things that you can definitely do, but the only thing with these, have you ever had canned salmon, Bray?
Yeah, you say not healthy. I go, what if the majority of Americans switch and integrate this into their diet and eliminate one other nasty thing, they're going to be in a hell of a lot better shape. So like, I think it's all relevant to who the individual is, because you can, like you said, you can make that healthy-ish. Is it ideal? But no, but you know what? Neither is our lifestyle sometimes. And neither is the time that we have to prepare foods or go out and catch stuff and make stuff. So,
well, hold on. I want to make sure I said, I didn't say healthier. I said quality.
Oh, quality. Yeah, quality. Sorry. Yeah, but you're right. It's not as high of a quality as what we could go get, but it is better than nothing, and it is providing a lot of good things for our body. Like you said, it's got a ton of protein in there. The omegas in it is fantastic. You're keeping your cost of finances low. If you're a female, you're probably, you said how many grams? 100, 120 grams?
There's 5 servings, 20 grams of serving in there.
That's 5 meals right there. That's hypothetically, if you were to eat 5 meals a day and you got 20 grams of protein in each meal, most women could just eat that one can and then have their fruits and vegetables and your carbohydrates throughout the day and your healthy fats and just crush it.
All right, so this is what I really wanted to test. So I've definitely had canned salmon before. I've had really good high quality salmon before. But this salmon in particular, it's looking pretty good. A lot of times you're going to find that the skin's still on and the bones are still in there and like nothing has changed. But some things you'll definitely see here. I know it sounds weird, but it's actually great for calcium, is that you're going to see some of the bones. It looks like some of the spine is still in here too. I know it sounds weird, but you don't feel it when you chew it. But it's also something here. Again, it's $6 just to have this whole thing. Having fish, like a serving of fish, 3 to 4 ounces at least, and you'll see, like, whether you're talking the American Heart Association or the National Lipid Association or forgetting one more, but they'll always say like 2 servings of fish a week to get to the recommended amount that you need. The research that they show, I'm like, I don't know how they're getting to that level. I always tell my athletes at least 3 or 4 times a week, and so if we're doing that, it's pretty good. But this actually looks pretty decent. I got to be honest. It, I was worried that it wasn't going to be very good.
I get mine while you're chewing that. I go to Costco and I'll get mine out of Costco. They have like a wild Alaskan salmon from Costco, and it's kind of the same concept. It's just it's quick, it's efficient, and you can literally add damn near anything to that, and it'll be just delicious.
I think it's so easy. I mean, we end up getting these from Whole Foods. They're frozen. They're already going to be 4 ounces. Now, this is farm salmon. I'm not going to get so worried about it. I work in enough seafood restaurants to know the difference between a farm salmon and a wild salmon. I was also a marine science major for a time, so I understand also the environmental impact of farm salmon. But my daughter will only eat farm salmon because farm salmon has really grown to have a higher fat content, so that it tastes a lot better, especially in a restaurant. Wild salmon doesn't taste all that great, to be honest, because there's less fat content in it. There's actually more omega-3 in this than there is omega-3 in a wild salmon of the same size, but it's only because there's more fat in general. So you're getting more calories. You're also going to get a lot more saturated fat within a farm salmon too. Not to get into the weeds here, but I think it's just making sure that we can definitely do it. And the bigger message for me was, as I spilled salmon juice everywhere over here, my God, it's gonna smell forever, is that I just want people to know it's like these kind of things. I think that it's so accessible to grab these things. 100 grams of protein. Like, I have people, Lenny's got jokes over here. Thanks, Lenny. We appreciate that. And it's not bad. This is actually one of the better quality canned salmons that I've actually tried. And it's chicken of the sea, which I think is found in most places. I love these packs as well.
I think one of the issues, as I'm sitting here watching you eat It's simple. And I'm guilty of doing it sometimes. And the majority of people who have a hard time or a hard relationship with food have a very difficult time making it basic. The more basic you can get with your foods, the safer decisions you're going to make, right? The healthier decisions you're going to make. Like, not to say your food's got to be bland or whatnot, but if I think about three things: proteins, carbohydrates, and a healthy fat, I don't get very complex. I write down a list of 5 or 7 proteins that I really love, whether it's steak, salmon, chicken, deli meats, egg whites, protein powder, whatever it is, non-fat cottage cheese. Make my list, right? And then I'll take my carbohydrates and I'll list my favorite ones. It would be strawberries, blueberries. It could be, breads, grains, rices, or pasta if I really, really want to get into that, right? Any unlimited amounts of green vegetables. Which healthy fats? It could be egg yolks. It could be coconut oil, olive oil, ghee, butter. It could be almonds, nuts, seeds. It could be a plethora of avocados. Any of those things. But if I have a list of all those foods, just the ones that I love, and I put them in those categories, all I have to do is go pick one from each category. You've knocked out 2 because of the salmon, really. You've knocked out your healthy fats, and you've knocked out your...
It's incredible, by the way. Canned mackerel, if anyone needs a fish that's not going to be super fishy and you're going to get the best benefit, mackerel is like the best. It's like Wild Planet makes a really good one too. It ends up being a little more expensive. I'm sorry, I cut you off. But this is incredible.
But it's simple is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, totally. Well, that was like, you know what? Last night I came home a little bit late. Lauren had already cooked dinner, and of course I appreciate that. I was in a mindset, and tell me I'm an asshole, ready? Of course, we always want to get home and, maybe there's food made or not. I like making my own food, but Lauren had made something kind of casserole-esque. And again, call me an asshole. She made something, but I knew she was just like, she had mentioned, like, I was like, hey, I'm coming home a little bit late. She's like, okay, I'm going to throw something together. So she did. And it was kind of a casserole kind of dish. And she took a little bit of we had like a bagged chicken. Actually, I took a picture of it yesterday, and she had mixed that with some frozen peas. And then we did some pasta with it. That's what she had put together. I remember I got home and I was like, wait a second, I don't really know what, like, in my mind, and like, this is such the weird thing, but I was like, I don't know what I'm eating. And it wasn't supposed to be like, it looks gross. It wasn't supposed to be anything mean. It was like, I'm trying to compute in my head what I'm getting at. And I think this is just like the level that I'm at, which I think is fine, because it's not like, I'm not overwhelmed with it, but I was like, I don't know how much protein you put into that, right? So I'm just kind of curious, and like, what am I going to be eating now? And I ended up like boiling like, 4 eggs, and I had on the side with it all. Yes. But it's something where it's like, I needed to know like that I had that complete meal. It was definitely something that needs to do. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't really fit into the story, but it was definitely something that I felt like, I was like, someone would call me an asshole right now if I had said that and I made more protein for myself. But that's what I do.
I think it's just more of a like, hey, I'm very thankful for the food, but what is it? What's in it? Just so I have an idea if I need to, because like you said, your mind works that way. When I see stuff, my mind works that way too. When I see a plate of food, I kind of look at it and I go, oh, damn, that's really high in carbs, or, oh my goodness, like there's no fiber, or, oh my gosh, that guy has got 0 protein, whatever it is. That's why I say, to me, my mind works in 3 categories, the basics, right? You've knocked out 2 of the 3. So my question to you is, what carbohydrate are you putting in your body right now to balance out your blood sugar level, right? Like if I'm playing devil's advocate, or if I'm just talking to a client and I'm saying, beautiful client, like, Ryan, you love your tuna. I love it. Take a look at it. Turn around and just that packet. How many grams of protein are in that packet? 160 calories.
This right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, 160, 30 grams, well, 29 grams protein.
29 grams. How many grams of fat?
This probably what? 10. Oh wow, no, it's not. It's only 3.5.
Oh wow. Okay, so it's really low in fat. How many carbohydrates? I'm sure it's really low.
Well, you're not really you're gonna get 0. It's protein.
Perfect. So that's kind of my point, right? Is if you're looking at my client and you're eating that as a snack, I'm going, hey man, that's great. That's a decent amount of protein. How many grams again? You said 20, 30?
In this 30. Oh, it's 20.
30. So even if, like Ryan, if you were my personal client right now, I would say that's efficient for a snack or a meal. If you had that meal 5 or 6 times a day, you're getting a sufficient amount of protein levels in for the day. Now, what's cool is based off of your hunger level, if you're really, 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 really hungry, you can go eat just a whole, table full of vegetables and it's only 27 calories. Or if you're not very hungry and you still need to get those calories in, you could have like a slice of bread or something, something of those sorts. Whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, it just makes things easier. And I like it when it's easier. So no matter if I'm at a restaurant or if I'm traveling and they have a buffet style breakfast or whatever, I go, cool, I need proteins, I need carbs, and I need fats. I need the carbs for the energy, I need protein for my muscles, and I need fat to keep me full, to give me flavor in my food, and to keep me functioning throughout the day, right?
Hey, don't forget our best friend, potatoes. So.
Oh yeah, bread. I mean, I throw when I say bread's grains, sauces. Yeah,
I got you. I know. It's this. I really we got to have the potatoes. These are, if there's something called the Holt Satiety Index, and it's a scale that shows how satiating certain food is rated by many individuals. I forget how many people are actually in the one study they ended up doing, but potato itself. This has gotten a bad rap. Potatoes are so low in calorie, they're so high in potassium, and they're great for fiber. So to be honest, if I was here by myself, I would take this, I would microwave it for 5 minutes, and I put it with this fish.
And you're done though. But like, look how simple that is. You've got your meat, your protein, you've got your carbs, and we're gonna probably cook those carbs with maybe a little coconut oil or olive oil or butter if you're gonna put it in a baked potato or something like that. It's so simple, and you don't have to make things complex. Like you were talking about with the wife's dinner, like, hey, this is a cool casserole, but what's in it? It's so much my mind is trying to compute it all. Just give me the information so I can make those decisions on my own.
Yeah, I'm always just I guess the larger message that I'm trying to think about right now, because I know what we're talking about, what we're mentioning, is definitely things that people have heard before, right? We know protein, carbs, fats. I think keeping it simple. I think the better message that I would want to make sure someone's hearing is that you don't need to truly make a meal by the definition of what people kind of call or kind of define it as. Because a lot of times I think that people think that it has to be something either ordered on Seamless or something made, or it has to be on a plate, whatever it's really going to be. And I think a lot of like the most successful people, and I'm going to say this too, I think when I've been most successful, either in like a period of a deficit or a cut, whatever you want to call it, definitely have had a lot more success with not really having meals. And in fact, when I'm having those meals, it really makes me not stay so in touch with my overall hunger. And it makes me think I have to finish that plate. And that's not something that I was ever told as a kid, like you have to finish your food. But it's like, to me, I'm a completionist. And so whatever I put in front of me, I'm going to do, which is why I like to be guided by things like macros and calories. And I think it gets a bad rap, as I was mentioning before, or was that to you? It wasn't to you. I had shared a podcast from a guy that I love. I love this guy. He's so great. He has a podcast. It's called Dieting from the Inside Out. Why am I forgetting his name right now? I'm going to get it. Jared Hamilton. Jared Hamilton's great. But on all of his podcasts, he talks shit on food is fuel. He's like, food is not just fuel. And I listen to it. I'm like, shut up, because I know. But like, it's all about the idea, because my business is called Food is Fuel NYC. But, but I also work with more active individuals. So like, food is fuel first and foremost from my standpoint when I work with individuals. And then we obviously get into the other stuff too. So, I think when we can accept the fact that like we don't have to have that traditional meal, it helps. Like I am so happy. Like this tastes like I could be eating like a fresh fish off of a plate. These don't, but they're great. And even Lenny over here is mentioning something like chunk light tuna. Chunk light tuna is great. It's going to be a lot less expensive, and price is going to play a big part here. I think this itself was as much money as this. This is only 18 grams of protein. This is 100. Right? So it's something where it's like, if I'm trying to save some money, I'm going for this. But I think it's just something where it's like, we don't need to always have meals by definition. And I always tell my clients too, I say, use my rule of 3 whenever you're traveling, right? If you are stuck somewhere, you're in an airport, you can't really have a meal. And when you look around, it's like, oh man, all you can do is maybe go to like Olive Garden, or you can go somewhere else, just big portions, and it's kind of hard to kind of eat well for your goals. I always say use the rule of 3: a fat, a protein. I always say protein, fiber, and a beneficial fat. And so I always tell someone, I'm like, dried roasted edamame for something like protein, dried fruit for fiber, and then also just do like a nut butter packet as a fat. And I know those don't sound like they go together, but like that could be 600 calories right there. 600 calories, that's technically a meal. And you also had at least 20 grams of protein, you had at least 15 grams of fat, and you had 20 grams of fiber. So all those things together, that's going to be technically a meal that can work for you to kind of bridge the gap until you get somewhere else. So like I would use this, 100% as my protein or my fat, to be honest.
Yeah. But you bring up a good point, because you can take that stuff anywhere with you. You can throw it in the backpack, you can throw it in your purse, you can whatever, literally throw it in your pocket and carry it around throughout the day, and it won't go bad. And that's why I appreciate something like that. You know, you almost become a grazer. I used to joke around to the kids. They're like, well, how should I eat? I go, just graze. Don't worry about eating like big meals. They're like, well, why? I said, have you ever seen a fat cow? And they're like, well, aren't all cows fat? And I said, no, they're really actually pretty lean. And they sit there and they graze all day long. Right. And, but my point is that
quality goes down a ton.
Quality goes for sure.
No, going from this back to
going back to that.
Good. I would, you know what? I would love this. I love a challenge. Try and figure out how we can make a good recipe. I mean, like, again, we're talking about like you don't have to make a meal out of everything, but it'd be so cool to figure out how to make these. I would probably make like some sort of like salmon patty with this. But there's got to be something else we can do with this. I'm kind of curious, but.
I'm making a meal for everybody right now that they can carry around with them. You're going to make one meal. I'm going to make one meal. You've already kind of come up with one, but I want to come up with a meal right now that people can carry around with them throughout the day, that they can prepare at any point of the day and just have it with them, so they don't have to cook anything. They don't have to think. They don't have to do anything. I want to have this the most simplified version of success as possible. Because I really feel like that is a big deal, because whether it's, hey, we're running out in the morning and we don't have enough time to cook, so we just stop eating, or we eat the wrong things and we're slowing down our metabolism. Like, I hate that. I hate that the whole, why time to cook, so I just want to grab fast food. Well, shit, we know we're going to eat every damn day at certain parts of the day or certain times, and we're going to get hungry. So why not prepare and plan for that stuff, right? So just perfect example, what I used to do, and I tell all my clients to do, especially the kids that were more athlete based and they weren't cooking their own breakfasts sometimes, or the parents were out the door, and or they needed something between school and practice, right? I would take a shaker cup and I would literally line up my countertop with them. I had like 7 or 10 of them. And I would take my scoopful of protein powder. I'd do chocolate protein because I like chocolate. And I'd go scoop, 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 scoop. And I'd pour 1 scoop in each cup. And then I'd take a cup of oats, or a half a cup of oats, right? And I would just old-fashioned oats. And I'd put that in there. Bang, 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 bang. And then I'd go through each one and I'd grab either a glob of peanut butter, or I'd put in like a tablespoon of coconut oil or olive oil into each one. And I would then just go ahead and put the cap on it, screw it, and I put it up in my counter, in my cabinet. And it was ready to rock and roll. So the only thing I had to do is go grab it, add water, shake, 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 maybe let the oats get a little soggier instead of crunchy or whatever. And it was for me, it was a chocolate peanut butter oatmeal shake. And it controlled my proteins, my carbs, and my fats. And I could have it in my backpack for 17 hours and it wouldn't go bad. You know, I could run out the door and be like, oh shit, grab and go. And I could sit there and make it in the car. And I think it just helped protect me personally, getting out of certain situations, whether it's I didn't eat, or I don't have time, or I don't have money to eat, or, you know, just whatever it is. I'm running into a situation and I feel like my blood sugar's down, or, you know, there's
right. What do you usually tell people if you, you know, I think when I usually talk about, and this just gives structure to some things, we don't always have to get to this point, but I always talk about the pyramid of nutrition prioritization in terms of most goals. And usually when we talk about supplements, I'm always like, I go through this because supplements are at the top. because the bottom, you're always looking at kind of, calories and then macronutrients, micronutrients, then timing of meals, supplements. That tends to be kind of like the importance of what you do.
I
But,
love it.
I think at some point we do get to timing of meals. And especially for a lot of people that are working out, it can be beneficial. I think the whole thing of like recovery windows is blown out of proportion. But I do think that, making sure that we eat at regular intervals, one for just overall blood sugar control and energy, but I think also because I know our body goes through circadian rhythms, right? And so our body gets used to certain times when it's actually eating. And so that's kind of like when you start thinking about lunch, like was that you saying something before about like talking about certain food, like it can make us salivate. But when you salivate, now all of that is going to be swallowed. It's going to hit your stomach. Your stomach is now going to kick off a release of different enzymes, just like all the acids. Those acids are going to move into your small intestine. The small intestine is going to kick off, a little bit of a process there from things just like your pancreas and everything too. And so your body wants to really keep doing a very regular normal thing, just like when you wake up or when you get thirsty or when you go to the bathroom or any of those kind of feelings. So, I always tell people kind of a certain interval kind of eating, just kind of a roundabout. Do you ever kind of give that kind of advice at all?
It really depends on the client. I find that most people have they actually made one of the, I forget if it was the Coca-Cola company or if it was Dr. Pepper, but they said have a Dr. Pepper or Coke at 10, 2, and 4. Or 10, 12, and 2, I think it was. And those were statistically the times where most people's blood sugars dropped. So that's why I prefer to tell my clients to graze if they have the ability to graze. Yeah. Not everyone has the ability to graze, so some people can only eat 2 meals a day and they need to get all those calories in those 2 meals.
Yeah. Okay.
So how do you get away from, what are you saying, like some of these dips throughout the day?
Yeah. I mean, I would, I like the discussion around the grazing because I think it's definitely something that is it has good utility to it, I think, for many people. I think when I start thinking about the grazing, I know one thing in particular, just because working a lot with like body fat loss for people, there's 3 things I always tell people is that if you're looking to gain weight, I'm going to ask you to snack more. I'm going to ask you to start getting in more liquid calories, and I'm going to ask you to get more fat items into your diet. And so I say, but if that's going to help any of my athletes gain weight, guess what I'm going to tell you to do if you want to get leaner right now? You're going to do the opposite of this. So the grazing thing, I hear you because I think it's nuanced. I think it's definitely good. I do try to think about how we can give, like when we end up eating, we think about amino acids, we think about blood sugar. Usually it's, as long as we're eating the appropriate meal, enough calories, enough protein, enough fiber, enough all that, it usually is about 4 or 5 hours until our amino acids are a lot lower, where now it's not going to benefit the muscle. So I usually would want to make, and also because I'm big on brain health, so when we think about neurotransmitters and oxytocin and dopamine and everything else too, once the amino acids go low, that's where it can affect the brain. So I'm always like, okay, well, we should keep a general, understanding of like when we could eat. Now, you could eat 2 meals in a day, but making sure that we maybe keep this like understanding of like, well, then let's kind of keep it closer to 5 hours so we can still just benefit the muscle. There's not exactly a right answer. I'm not trying to say what I'm saying is the way to do it, but I think that the grazing versus the timing is a great discussion. And to be honest, this is where I'd love to go with this. If people kind of came up here even live and asked some questions, or we were able to kind of work through those, because I think the grazing thing can be great for someone, and then also just kind of giving more structure to somebody else. And I think watching that in real time is just a huge benefit. So maybe we can think about really finding some people that want to share their challenges. We can walk through that kind of stuff. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I tend to find that the grazing really helps for people who overeat and are binge eaters and are emotional eaters. And the reason that is because they'll go extended period of time without eating, and then they have this big void or this big emptiness, and then they fill it, and then they keep filling it and filling it. It's kind of like that one picture that you showed me. Hey, how full is your stomach, and how does that make you feel? Are you on a scale from 1 to 5? Is it a 3 full? Is it a 5 full? Now, how does that make you feel? Right. And so I like it for the overeaters, the people who just have no control. and are capable. I don't think eating's bad. In fact, if you give me a 300-pound person who needs to lose 100 pounds, I'm going to have that person religiously eat, like constantly. In fact, I can put them on a meal plan that will, the more food that they eat, the more weight they're going to lose. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's that concept of getting your internal engine to burn. Food is fuel. It is. And if you do it correctly, it's going to spike your metabolism. It's going to get you burning. And it'll allow you to do the things that you need to accomplish. The human body is just a phenomenal thing. It really is.
I'm excited. Yeah, it's definitely, you know what, I'd love to put out maybe a roundtable discussion. It's kind of hard to be like, hey, if you're a binge eater, come on up, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
But I think it would be great to kind of find people that maybe are challenged with that, kind of figure out the best way to do it. We'll see what's going on, but I think it'll be good. Anyway, I'm gonna have to run. Great stuff. I had some great fish, by the way, guys. Honestly, canned mackerel, you're missing out. If you want something that tastes kind of fresh, this is also brought to you by Cole's Mackerel. Wonderfully packaged, and I don't even know, where's this from? It's probably from Spain, somewhere in Spain. Oh, Bristol, Rhode Island. There you go. But American made, American cotton packaged. But anyway, guys, we will see you next time. Tagline sign off. You know what I'm going to say my tagline sign off. And Brian, I'll give you some time too. I love to say this. If it's working for you, your health, your mindset, your definition of success, no one deserves to tell you different. You do you, right? I think a lot of people just think that what they're doing is wrong and someone else is right. They're not. You got to figure out what's working for you. Brian, last words at all?
Don't be afraid to be great. Find somebody who's going to hold you accountable. Don't look for a friend. Look for the best friend. The best friend is going to tell you the things you need to hear. The good friend is just going to tell you the things.
Play some music. It's kind of getting us out. I hope it didn't shut you up there. It works. What number are we on? We're on 10, 12. All right, cool, guys. Well, anyway, yeah, we'll keep rolling. We'll see you next Tuesday, I think. I know I've been popping on. You were there. Brian, I might make you an admin so you can kind of get into your get in on these just by yourself too. So we'll see. But until next time, guys, we'll see you then. Love you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.